Did you realize that the daily morning routine you have followed for years might be silently influencing your long-term vascular health? Most older adults in America never suspect that their ordinary habits could be contributing to potential health risks. They tend to assume that serious medical events strike suddenly and mysteriously out of nowhere like a bolt of lightning. However, after decades of studying the aging brain, I can tell you the earliest warnings usually do not start in a hospital room. They actually begin in your bedroom, your kitchen, or your bathroom, right in the first hour after you wake up. Because after the age of 60, your brain enters the morning hours in a naturally more sensitive physiological state. Your blood viscosity is naturally higher, your pressure is rising, and your vessels are often stiffer than they were in youth. Certain common and seemingly harmless habits can increase your cardiovascular risk factors before you even pour your first cup of coffee. In this discussion, I will reveal the hidden morning triggers most seniors never recognize until they experience a health setback. I will also share the simple changes that could help protect your brain function and vitality for years to come. Before we dive in, if you have not subscribed yet, I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell. This ensures you never miss another health tip that is created specifically for your personal well-being. If you find value in this video, type the number 1 in the comments below to let me know. If not, type 0 to let me know how I can make better and more relevant content for you. One habit that requires attention is drinking coffee immediately after waking up without hydrating first. When I speak with my older patients here in the United States, I often begin with a question that seems harmless. I ask them what is the very first thing they put into their body each morning upon waking. Most smile and answer proudly that they have had their morning coffee first thing for over 40 years. But after decades as a brain physician, I can tell you this familiar American morning ritual is often misunderstood. It is one of the most underestimated factors that can elevate stress on the body in adults over 60. Here is the physiological reason why this specific habit matters so much for your system. During the night, your body enters a long, unbroken stretch without any fluid intake, usually lasting 6 to 8 hours. As we age, the body loses its ability to retain moisture efficiently, and older adults naturally wake up mildly dehydrated. This is not just about feeling thirsty, but involves the actual viscosity of your fluids. In medical terms, nighttime dehydration increases blood thickness, meaning the fluid becomes slightly slower and heavier. Thicker blood forces the heart to work harder and reduces the smooth, steady flow your brain depends on. Now imagine what happens when this already concentrated blood meets your morning cup of strong coffee. Caffeine, especially when consumed on an absolutely empty stomach, pulls even more water from your system. It acts as a mild diuretic, which can potentially worsen the dehydration you already woke up with. At the same time, caffeine stimulates the sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight response. This creates a surge in heart rate and blood pressure just minutes after you open your eyes. For a healthy 30-year-old, that surge may not cause any significant trouble or discomfort. But for someone over 60, whose arteries are stiffer and whose vessels are narrower, the effect is different. Whose brain is already vulnerable, this combination becomes a source of unnecessary physiological stress. Here is what can essentially happen inside your body when these factors combine. It may elevate the risk of vascular strain during the early morning hours. Blood pressure naturally rises, so adding dehydration plus caffeine produces a sudden spike that can overwhelm delicate vessels. It creates an environment where circulation is less efficient and more sluggish. Thick, concentrated blood flows with more resistance when caffeine further constricts the blood vessels. The narrowing increases the chance that circulation will slow down significantly in critical areas. When that happens in the brain, The result is a temporary reduction in oxygen supply. It reduces early morning blood flow to the brain, which is already lower than during the day. Older adults already experience a morning dip in cerebral perfusion, which is the flow of blood to the brain. Starting the day with caffeine instead of hydration deepens that dip and may starve brain cells of oxygen. This happens during a period when your neurological system is arguably at its most vulnerable. I still recall a case involving a gentleman in his 80s from Arizona with a similar routine. He had no major medical problems, no smoking history, and walked a mile every day for exercise. But he began experiencing brief episodes of hand clumsiness and trouble recalling simple words at breakfast. His medical evaluations later suggested he had experienced transient ischemic episodes shortly after waking. His only consistent habit was that he drank strong black coffee every morning before drinking a single sip of water. When we reversed that routine to prioritize water first and coffee 20 minutes later, those episodes stopped completely. This is not about giving up coffee, but rather it is about timing your intake correctly. Your brain does not want heavy stimulation the moment you wake. It wants gentle circulation. It wants hydration. It wants safety. And it wants a gradual transition into the day. If this one simple habit can quietly push a healthy older adult toward a risk, you must ask yourself a question. What other morning behaviors are silently increasing your risk without you even realizing it? Because the next habit on this list is even more common, yet far less talked about. If you are still watching and finding these insights helpful, please comment number 1 below to let me know. You are with me. So now let us move on to point number 2. Sitting too long on the edge of the bed without moving your body. Among my older patients here in the United States, this is one of the habits they almost never consider. They wake up, push themselves upright, sit on the edge of the bed, and simply stay there. Sometimes they sit for 5 minutes, sometimes for 20, waiting for their body to warm up. It feels harmless, and it feels gentle, but medically for adults over 60, it presents risks. This quiet stillness is far from harmless regarding your circulatory health and venous return. In fact, it is one of the most subtle early morning conditions that slows circulation significantly. It silently creates conditions where blood can pool before you even take your first steps. Let me explain why this happens based on how gravity affects the aging body. When you sleep, blood flow slows and pools naturally in the lower part of the body. This is normal, but as we age, something important changes in our vascular system. The veins in our legs lose elasticity, the valves weaken, and circulation becomes more sluggish. So when an older adult wakes up and sits without moving, the blood continues to stagnate. Instead of rising back toward the heart and brain, it remains pooled in the lower legs. This is a critical moment because your heart is trying to restore circulation after hours of lying down. But your stillness prevents that upward flow from happening as efficiently as it should. The result is a sudden mismatch with thick, slow-moving blood remaining in the legs. While your brain is desperately waiting for fresh oxygen and nutrients after a long night. That is not just morning grogginess, that is actually a state of undercirculation. And here is where the potential danger begins for the aging cardiovascular system. It may trigger vascular issues when blood remains trapped in the legs and fails to reach the brain. Your blood pressure can spike as the heart tries to compensate for the lack of return flow. This sharp rise in pressure, especially common in older adults, can strain fragile vessels in the brain. It creates an environment conducive to the formation of vascular blockages or clots. Stagnant morning blood is a breeding ground for potential issues within the deep veins. If a blockage forms in the deep veins of the legs, a sudden movement can be risky. When that blockage travels upward, it can obstruct a vessel and cause a medical emergency. It decreases early morning brain perfusion because sitting still prevents the natural pump action. The calf muscles are the very mechanism your body relies on to push blood upward. Without that muscle pump, older adults experience some of the lowest morning cerebral blood flow levels. This happens precisely when the brain is the most fragile and in need of oxygen. I once treated a man in his late 70s from Ohio who believed he was having balance issues. Every morning, he described a strange fog, his hands trembling slightly, and a moment of drifting vision. Whenever he rose from the bed, he assumed it was just a normal part of aging. But what struck me was his routine of sitting on the edge of the bed for 20 minutes. He sat there every morning, checking the news on his phone without moving his legs. His medical scans later revealed issues with small vessel circulation in the brain caused by poor flow. These were tiny, silent injuries caused by poor circulation during the critical morning transition period. When he shortened his sitting time and added gentle ankle rolls and shoulder movements, symptoms improved. Those symptoms disappeared, which shows how something so ordinary can quietly drift into danger. Your first minutes after waking are a crossroads where you either activate circulation or sabotage it. You either help your blood move or you let stillness create a dangerous stagnation. A few seconds of gentle motion like flexing the toes or rotating the ankles helps immensely. Rolling the shoulders can be the difference between healthy morning flow and a dangerous stagnation. This places the brain at risk, and if simply sitting still can cause this much harm. Wait until you hear about the next habit, which millions of older Americans do daily. Almost no one realizes how risky it truly is to rush into the day. 3. Rushing to the bathroom the moment you stand up from your bed. Among my older patients across the United States, this is one of the most common habits. Many seniors wake up with urgency, often because of the need for nighttime urination. And the very first thing they do is stand up quickly and rush straight to the bathroom. It feels natural and necessary, but for adults over 60, this simple action creates stress. This represents one of the most dangerous physiological shifts of the entire day for seniors. Let me explain what happens inside your body the moment your feet touch the floor. During the night, your blood pressure naturally drops and your heart rate slows down. Your circulation becomes steady and quiet to support the restorative processes of sleep. When you suddenly move from lying down to standing, your body must instantly compensate. Younger adults handle this shift without difficulty because their reflexes are fast and efficient. But in older adults, the cardiovascular reflexes are weaker, and the vessels are stiffer. The heart takes longer to stabilize, which creates a moment of orthostatic stress. This is a sudden drop in blood pressure as gravity pulls blood toward the legs. If you move too quickly, the brain is left briefly under-supplied with oxygen. This causes dizziness, blurred vision, and instability, which can lead to falls or worse. And when this moment of vulnerability is combined with the bathroom rush, the risks escalate. Here is why the combination of speed and urgency is so problematic for the body. To urinate, especially after holding it overnight, your body engages the vulva maneuver. This is a reflex in which you momentarily increase pressure in the chest and abdomen. This action strains the cardiovascular system and forces your heart to fight against pressure. For someone over 60, this combination of standing too fast and straining is risky. It creates a dangerous cascade inside the body that can lead to vascular events. The sudden rise and fall of pressure can rupture fragile vessels or destabilize blood flow. Many early morning medical emergencies occur in or near the bathroom where these shifts take place. It encourages the formation of issues when blood pressure fluctuates largely and harshly. Older vessels struggle to maintain smooth flow during these rapid changes in pressure. Stagnant blood in the legs combined with the internal strain can encourage blockage formation. A blockage that breaks free during this unstable period can travel upward quickly. It places enormous stress on the heart because the muscle may not respond quickly enough. That lag in response can deprive the brain of oxygen at precisely the moment it needs it. I remember a woman in her 70s from Michigan who came to my clinic with concerns. She experienced frightening episodes of brief blackouts each morning right after getting to the bathroom. She thought they were just age catching up, but we reviewed her routine carefully. The pattern was unmistakable as she jumped out of bed the moment her eyes opened. She hurried to the bathroom and strained, which caused her blood pressure to fluctuate wildly. She later learned she had suffered minor ischemic events likely triggered by those abrupt transitions. This habit feels harmless because it is part of daily life, but it requires caution. For an older body, the first 60 seconds after waking require respect, patience, and gentleness. Your brain and heart need time to adjust before you expose them to strain. Slow down and pause before rising to give your body a chance to balance. Give your body a chance to find equilibrium before you step away from the bed. And if you think this bathroom habit is risky, wait until you see the next one. The next morning, behavior is a common healthy trend many older Americans follow unaware. It places the brain under even greater stress, despite seeming like a positive choice. If you are still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 1 below. Let me know you are here. So now let us keep going with point number 4. 4. Skipping breakfast or taking morning medications on an entirely empty stomach. Among older adults in the United States, this habit has quietly become part of culture. Many seniors wake up, drink coffee, take their medications, and head into the morning. They often have nothing in their stomach because they do not feel hungry yet. Others do it because they are trying intermittent fasting or simply fall into the routine. But as a physician who has treated thousands of older Americans, I can tell you this. For people over 60, starting the day without food acts as a physiological stressor. It is one of the most dangerous early morning stressors you can place on the brain. Not eating in the morning does not just make you feel weak, it changes your physiology. It creates conditions that can trigger vascular issues long before lunchtime ever arrives. Let me explain exactly what happens internally when you deny your body morning fuel. During the night, your body burns through stored glucose to keep your brain functioning. When you wake up, your brain expects replenishment to continue operating at optimal levels. But as we age, the liver becomes less efficient at releasing stored glucose quickly. This means older adults are far more vulnerable to morning hypoglycemia or low blood sugar. It may not be dramatic enough to cause fainting, but it restricts brain fuel. The brain is the most sensitive organ in your body regarding energy supply. It has almost no ability to store energy, so it needs a steady flow constantly. When it does not get that supply, several dangerous things begin to unfold internally. 1. Your blood pressure rises sharply because the body senses low blood sugar as a threat. In response, it releases stress hormones, especially cortisol and adrenaline, to force glucose out. This hormonal surge tightens blood vessels, which can raise blood pressure to unsafe levels. 2. Your blood becomes more prone to clotting because low glucose alters platelet activity. It thickens blood consistency, and in older adults this creates a poor environment. A small blockage that forms in the morning, combined with dehydration, can travel upward. This is why skipping breakfast is linked to a higher risk of vascular events. 3. It triggers instability through unstable circulation when the brain senses a shortage. Blood flow becomes irregular, and the vessels dilate and constrict unpredictably to compensate. For aging arteries that may already contain plaque, these fluctuations can be hazardous. 4 medications become more dangerous on an empty stomach due to rapid absorption rates. Many older Americans take blood pressure pills or diabetes medication in the morning. Without food, these drugs can hit the bloodstream too quickly, creating sudden drops. I once cared for a man in his early 70s from Florida with this issue. He believed he was doing something healthy by skipping breakfast and drinking only black coffee. He began experiencing short waves of confusion, shaky hands, and difficulty recalling words. He assumed it was aging, but we checked his blood glucose pattern and found the truth. He was dropping too low each morning, which magnified the swings in his blood pressure. A scan later revealed he had suffered a small vascular event likely caused by this. The combination of low blood sugar dehydration and medication taken without food was the cause. Once he added a small morning meal like yogurt or an egg, his symptoms disappeared. Breakfast for older adults is not about appetite, it is about physiological stability. It is about giving the brain the fuel it needs to protect itself from stress. You do not need a large meal, nor do you need to cook extensively. Just give your brain something to work with to prevent metabolic chaos. Because if missing breakfast can create this much risk, you need to be prepared. The next morning habit is one that millions of seniors see as harmless. Yet it silently places the brain under a level of stress most people never realize. 5. Starting your day with stress by checking news emails or social media. Of all the morning habits I see in older Americans, this one is destructive. It does not involve movement or diet, nor does it involve medication or hydration. It involves something far more subtle and dangerous for an aging brain called stress. For many seniors across the United States, the day begins when the phone lights up. News alerts, financial updates, political headlines, and messages flood the brain immediately. Your brain is flooded with stimulation before your feet even touch the floor. To you, it may feel like just checking in on the world around you, but to your older nervous system, this is a shock and a jolt. It is a sudden wave of psychological stress delivered at the most vulnerable moment. Here is the medical reality behind why that interaction is so harmful to you. The human body is wired to experience a natural cortisol surge in the morning. Cortisol is a stress hormone, but in healthy amounts it helps you wake up. It peaks between 6 and 9 in the morning and is higher in older adults. Now imagine adding emotional stress on top of that existing physiological stress. Your blood pressure is already rising, and your nervous system is still shifting modes. Your circulation is still trying to stabilize, and suddenly you introduce fear or worry. Here is what this combination creates in the older body within minutes. A powerful spike in blood pressure and constriction of already stiff blood vessels. A sudden increase in heart workload and a drop in blood flow to the brain. This is not small, nor is it temporary, but rather a pressure surge. Brain specialists like me worry because, for seniors, these spikes are dangerous. It can trigger vascular events when emotional stress tightens blood vessels further. The sudden pressure increase can rupture a fragile artery or destabilize a plaque deposit. Studies show that vascular events occur more often in the morning because of this. It forms an environment where blood creates blockages more easily due to stickiness. Stress makes blood stickier, and platelets activate, which thickens blood consistency. Add dehydration and high cortisol, and you create an environment conducive to clotting. I treated a veteran from Texas who started every day watching the news. He admitted it upset him, but he thought it kept him informed. Over several weeks, he experienced episodes of flashing lights and brief confusion. His blood pressure log showed dramatic early morning surges reaching dangerous levels. When he stopped turning on the news first thing, The episodes vanished completely. What happened to him is a warning for every older American to heed. Your morning should not begin with stress or arguments or intense stimulation. Your brain is not ready to process the world immediately upon waking. The aging brain needs a buffer and a transition zone before it faces pressure. Even 10 minutes of calm gives your circulatory system time to stabilize safely. Ask yourself if something as simple as a notification can injure an older brain. What about the next morning habit which looks peaceful but carries a hidden danger? 6. Ignoring morning blood pressure checks, which is a silent danger for many. When I speak with older adults across the United States, I often hear excuses. They tell me they only check their blood pressure when something feels wrong. And every time I hear that, I feel a deep concern for their safety. Because for adults over 60, the most dangerous blood pressure surge happens quietly. It happens invisibly and predictably every single morning, whether you feel it or not. Let me explain what is happening inside your body the moment you wake up. During the early morning hours, the body experiences what we call the dawn phenomenon. Cortisol rises sharply, and the cardiovascular system begins pushing blood harder and faster. In younger adults, vessels expand easily, and the heart adapts quickly to this. But in the older body, where arteries are stiffer, this natural surge becomes risky. It is the single period of the day when blood pressure reaches its highest volatility. And it happens before breakfast and before most seniors ever think to measure it. Why does this matter so much for your long-term health and safety? Because early morning hypertension is one of the strongest predictors of vascular events. Not afternoon blood pressure nor evening blood pressure, but specifically morning blood pressure. And yet millions of seniors never check it, which leaves them vulnerable. Here is why that is dangerous and leads to potential medical emergencies. It triggers events when morning blood pressure spikes in fragile brain vessels. Even a small momentary surge can strain a weakened vessel or worsen a blockage. This is why so many events happen between 6 and 11 in the morning. It promotes blockage formation as high pressure forces thick blood through narrow vessels. This increases friction and encourages clot formation, which can push existing clots upward. Once a blockage reaches a narrowed artery in the brain, a stroke can occur. Many older adults have no symptoms beforehand because the danger builds silently. It destabilizes circulation before your medications have a chance to take effect. Your blood pressure medication needs time, often 30 minutes, to start working. If your pressure is high before the medication begins, your brain is unprotected. It creates silent injuries that accumulate over years and contribute to decline. I once cared for a man from Virginia who insisted his blood pressure was fine. He checked it only in the evenings when it looked normal to him. We asked him to measure it each morning for a week, and results were shocking. Morning surges were dangerously high despite his normal evening readings. He confessed he had been experiencing brief episodes of vision blurring recently. With adjustments to his schedule and medication timing, those episodes stopped. The most important change was finally understanding the danger happening every morning. This is why I tell every senior that you cannot manage what you do not measure. A blood pressure monitor becomes a shield between you and disability. Checking your morning pressure takes less than 60 seconds of your time. But those 60 seconds can be the difference between a stable day and disaster. Because if ignoring blood pressure puts you at risk. The next habit is worse. It is something millions of older Americans do every day, believing it is harmless. In reality, it may set the stage for a devastating vascular event. If you are still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 1. Let me know you are here, so let us keep going with point number 7. 7. Spending the first hour of the morning sitting still without movement. Of all the morning habits, I warn my older patients about. This is critical. This final one is perhaps the most deceptively dangerous habit of them all. It does not look harmful, nor does it feel dramatic in any way. In fact, many seniors believe it is good for them to start slowly. But medically, especially for adults over 60, prolonged sitting is a driver of risk. Let me take you inside the physiology of why stillness is so dangerous. When you wake up, your blood is naturally thicker from nighttime dehydration. Your muscles are stiff, your veins are relaxed, and your pressure rises. This is a vulnerable, delicate moment for the aging cardiovascular system. Movement is what helps the body adjust safely, but stillness traps the body. It traps the body in a state where poor circulation becomes dangerous circulation. Here is what happens inside the older body when you remain sedentary. When you wake up and spend the next hour sitting, your muscles remain inactive. Your calf muscles act as the pump to push blood back toward the heart. Your venous valves allow blood to pool in the legs when not stimulated. The blood in your lower body sits stagnant, cooling and thickening over time. Meanwhile, your brain is demanding oxygen and nutrients after hours of sleep. But the sluggish circulation struggles to deliver what it needs efficiently. Over time, this creates an internal traffic jam of slow-moving blood below. And this is where the danger becomes truly alarming for your health. It triggers vascular issues when the legs trap blood and circulation slows down. The heart compensates by increasing pressure, which can strain stiff arteries. Many morning events occur not because seniors exerted themselves, but because they sat. It forms blockages because stagnant blood is prone to clumping together. The longer blood sits still in the veins, the easier it becomes to clot. Aging veins already struggle to push blood upward, and stillness magnifies that weakness. A blockage formed during this quiet hour can break free when you stand. It can travel through the bloodstream and lodge in a cerebral artery quickly. It dramatically reduces early morning brain perfusion, leading to foggy thinking. Seniors often describe that slow feeling, but it is not simply age. It is the brain struggling to function with underpowered blood flow. When you remain still, the brain is starved of oxygen at a critical moment. I cared for a retired engineer from Colorado who followed this routine. He woke up and sat quietly in his recliner for nearly an hour. He believed this calm, peaceful routine was good for his nerves. But he began experiencing sudden spells of blurred vision and tingling fingertips. His scans eventually revealed multiple tiny silent injuries from poor flow. When we changed his routine to include just 5 minutes of light movement, his symptoms stopped completely once he added marching in place and stretching. The older body does not need force or sweat, it needs steady flow. Just 2 to 5 minutes of light mobility can cut your risk dramatically. And yet millions of seniors still begin their day in complete stillness. They are unaware of the hidden crisis forming quietly beneath the surface. Because if something as simple as sitting still can trigger a health event, imagine how many more dangers are hiding in the everyday routines of aging. Now that you have seen all 7 habits, let us bring everything together. Because the truth behind these morning risks reveals a vital pattern. Every senior in America needs to understand this before tomorrow morning arrives. Protecting your brain starts the moment you wake up, not later in the day. When I look back at decades of treating older adults, one truth remains. The brain is not always harmed by one dramatic event, but by habits. It is harmed slowly through small daily habits that seem harmless but carry weight. That is why the first hour after waking matters more than most imagine. During this window, your blood is thicker and your vessels are stiffer. The 7 morning habits we have uncovered are real, measurable physiological threats. Rushing your body when it needs stability is a recipe for disaster. Starving your brain when it needs fuel creates unnecessary metabolic stress. Flooding your system with stress when it needs calm causes pressure spikes. And allowing stillness to harden into stagnation deprives your blood of movement. Every one of these habits affects blood flow and increases blockage risk. But there is hope because the same habits that harm you can change. Not with difficulty or expense, but with awareness and intention. A glass of warm water before anything else helps hydrate your system. A minute of gentle motion before standing wakes up your muscles safely. A peaceful mind, instead of a stressful headline, protects your pressure levels. A bite of nourishment, instead of an empty stomach, fuels your brain. A blood pressure reading, instead of a guess, gives you control. A few steps, instead of long stillness, keeps your circulation moving. These small adjustments are not minor, they are medicine and protection. The longer I practice, the more convinced I am of this simple truth. The difference between a life altered by illness and a life lived fully often comes down to choices made in the quiet moments of the morning. Your brain is asking for attention, and your body is asking for compassion. Your future self is asking you to act now while you have power. Because if your mornings can quietly increase your risk, they can also protect you. Once you finally begin treating them with the respect your age deserves. These lessons are meant to inspire you to live fully and authentically. I would love to hear from you, so take a moment to reflect. Share one thing you have learned and plan to apply in your own life. Let us support each other on this journey toward embracing these truths. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with the number 1. If not, feel free to comment with 0 so I can improve. Your feedback means a lot to us, so do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and here is to living life on your own terms.